one's doing these exciting things. And you're like 20 or something, and you're just kind of like, okay. And so, not really doing much. And so I kind of felt like, I was telling everybody, oh yeah, I'm going to be a lawyer or maybe a doctor because it made me feel good. But I eventually had to come to the grips that like, I didn't want to do all those things. I actually wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to work in art, but I didn't know where. And I'll give you the aha moment, and then we'll take a break for a second. But, one day I got home from a graveyard shift from, one of the jobs I was working at. And I was always good at computers. I kind of grew up with computers. And I was always good at art. And one day I came home from a graveyard shift, and I was playing this game called Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1. And Metal Gear Solid's a classic game. It was one of my favorite games. And it occurred to me that this was made with human hands. Like, this was made by someone, like, I had always just assumed that like it was made by a computer programmer, but this was made by someone who could draw like me. And so I began to investigate, video game artists like as a job. And back in 2002, early 2003, it was like unheard of. It's like not many people were like video game artists as a job. No schools were teaching it. When I was in high school in '96, it didn't even exist. And so I began to like track down every professional video game artist I possibly could and learn everything about them. And so, and then I basically just tracked down like what tools I needed and just tried to get good. And that was the beginning of the journey, was just making a decision and then just going all in on it.
And this begins this process of moving through various video game companies, trading up almost every time, maybe sometimes trading down.
Yeah. So, working really hard to get that first job, right, as an artist is one of the hardest things, and we just spoke to a bunch of students here who are, going into arts or the arts or anything creative, or, and art can be so subjective between like personal art and what can be like commodified, like something that people can sell or that fits well within a video game art production. And that's what I was trying to do. So I got that first job in a very, very small studio in Pleasant Grove with just 3 guys, and it was so small, and but that was what I needed. That's all. I mean, I needed just a foot in the door and just to do really, really well, and a good recommendation from them, so that the next job would be better. And that's exactly right, Ryan. Like I kind of traded up every time, and learned a lot about like what makes a healthy studio and what makes a toxic studio, and what kind of people are fun to work for and what kind of people you want to avoid. And software and video games is a very interesting industry because it's tech and art. You're dealing with all the craziness of a software company and production management and all that stuff, combined with artists and storytellers who want to make moving experiences for people. And sometimes the commercial interests and the artistic integrity clash. And, over time I've learned to find that happy medium, for both. And I think I've definitely found that at Marvel I've had a 20 plus year career now. And I've definitely been, at places where the commercial success was more important than artistic integrity. And sometimes the other way around, artistic integrity is more important than commercial success. But, and I've seen both sides of that.
It's interesting to me, as we've been talking, that your job specifically really comes at a time where none of this ever really existed, right? It's this emergence of accessible technology with the power to really tell the stories in the way that you did. Like you talk about those 3 guys in the basement who were probably just beginning kind of computer nerds when they were younger. I mean, when I was a kid, it was the Atari, right? The 2600 and Space Invaders, and that was the cutting edge. And now I think that technology had become more accessible. The internet had helped that and really opened up a field for you to kind of be, maybe not a pioneering, but maybe that second generation of people.
I think it was like I'm either second or third generation game developer if I think about it, because when I got into the game industry, it was the old timers in the industry, in like 2003. These were all the guys who helped create things like the first Nintendo 64. Like 3D was like the big breakthrough for the generation before me. Before them, it was the 2D sprites, it was Atari, it was all that stuff, and Nintendo. But then I feel like the Nintendo 64 era, which was in the 1995, 96, that sprung that next generation of game developers where you got, the guys from id, guys like John Carmack, John Romero, and Cliff Bleszinski, like that entire movement that happened in Texas. You got Doom, you got Wolfenstein, everything starts going 3D, and so that's kind of like that was a class right before me. And then when I got in, the new tech was like per pixel shading, like normal maps. That's when you get in like Doom 3 era, and PlayStation 2. So that's kind of like, and so a lot of the guys that were churning out were guys that didn't want to adopt the new technology of like ZBrush or like digital sculpting and learning how to do like per pixel shading and all this. They just kind of like, they didn't want to grow. And so a lot of people churned out in the game industry. And because I had taught myself this new technology of how to use shaders and how to bake normal maps and bake specular maps and blah, 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 and I'll get too technical, but I learned a new pipeline that was the cutting edge pipeline at the time. So all of a sudden, even though my art wasn't that great, I knew the pipeline well enough so that I could be of help to a studio that wants to make a cutting edge game.
When I first got married, PlayStation 2 was the big thing. Like we got, we that was a wedding present or something that we had gotten, and we would decide who did the dishes that night by playing Soul Blade in the electronic dojo, and I did a lot of dishes, is what I'm saying. So. The question, I get that in many ways the way video games have evolved more aggressively are sometimes mini movies, right? Like you can go online and see the cutscenes of all the animations of a video game, right? And it's a story in and of itself. Mm-hmm. So can you maybe describe, first of all, I guess we should say some of the bigger games you worked on, but the process of how that happens?
Like the process of what, how a game starts as like a idea and
some guy says, hey, we should make a game about Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. Okay. Spider-Man's different because that takes someone with a ton of money says, hey, we should make a game about Spider-Man. That's how it usually starts. But, man, these days, I feel like anybody can make a video game. Like Unreal Engine is free. Getting it on the Steam marketplace is not a lot of work. So the indie game scene has actually exploded. Like anybody can make a video game. Anybody can. In fact, the Steam store is like kind of flooded right now with like so many indies, and it's so hard to stand out from the crowd. So these days, what really and I want to say, people are still trying to figure it out because you have games like Spider-Man, right, that are these huge franchise games that have hundreds of millions of dollars in marketing. And then you have games like Among Us, or you have games like Fall Guys, or that start out as these like weird sort of like niche things that become a phenomenon because like some dude streamed it one day. Now all the kids want to play it, right? There's a few right now that everyone's kind of looking at because they have like horrible graphics, but the gameplay is amazing. PUBG. I don't know if you guys know what PUBG is, but PUBG kind of was like that. Started an entire genre of like this like survival genre. Graphics were horrible, but it was fun. I think League of Legends could even be put in that category. It started from a mod called Dota that was made from Warcraft 3 engine, and then this mod called Dota got so popular, and all of a sudden these two guys, the founders of Riot Games, were like, why isn't somebody like polishing this and like offering customer support and making this an actual thing? And that became the MOBA genre. So I think first of all, you got to have not just a good idea, but a good game idea. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said like, hey, I got a great game idea, Grand Theft Auto, but you're the cops. It's like, cool idea, bro. Like, ideas are cheap, like, oh, I got a good idea for you. Like, what if you played like Red Dead Redemption, but like from the horse's perspective? It's like, dude, that's not a cool idea. That's stupid. Like, but everybody's got ideas, and some ideas are stupid. And what did Steve Jobs said something that people quote all the time? It's like, you can give a mediocre idea, or you can give a great idea to a bad team, and they'll ruin it. And you can give a mediocre idea to a great team, and they'll either execute it brilliantly or replace it with something better, right? So ideas are super, super cheap. The ability to execute an idea is like much more valuable. So, you know, whenever I go to I go to like game developer conferences or something like that, and I have idea people, I'm always asking them like, dude, build a prototype, you know, either hire an artist or learn how to draw these things out so that I can imagine like what I'm supposed to be seeing in this like gray boxed out prototype and like what your vision is other than just a word pitch. So, and then you just got to kind of pitch it around, see if you can get funding. And, you know, I talked about this before, but, you know, learning how VC funding works, how venture capitalist investments work, because there's a lot of investment funds out there that are looking for the next League of Legends. And so you could get $500,000, you know, if you play your cards right and have a small team and live, you know, and support that small team for about 2 or 3 years to get like a legit alpha build. So, but yeah, there's a lot that goes into like making a video game. Like, but yeah, it does usually start with an idea, a prototype, and funding.
So I think that's fascinating, and we're actually going to take our first break now because I think this is a good spot, and then I want to come back and talk about playability versus story, if we can do that. So if you've listened to us before, you know that we ask our guests to give us some songs that meant something to them, and then we play them. So the song that we're going to start with is a song called "Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now" by the Smiths. So can you tell us why you chose this song?
Well, because Morrissey is just a mopey guy, and the Smiths are just it's a gloomy day. No, I love the lyric where it's like I was looking for a job, and then I found a job, and now I'm still miserable.
All right, this is "Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now" by the Smiths.
I was happy in the haze of a drunken hour, but heaven knows I'm miserable now. I was looking for a job and then I found a job, and heaven knows I'm miserable now. In my life, why do I give valuable time to people who don't care if I entwine, pass me by, and heaven knows I'm miserable now. I was looking for a job and then I found a job, and heaven knows I'm miserable now. In my life, oh why do I give valuable time to people who don't care if I what she asked of me at the end of the day, Caligula would have blushed. Oh, you've been in the house too long, she said, and I naturally fled. In my life, why do I smile at people who I'd much rather kick in the eye? I was happy in the haze of a drunken hour, but heaven knows I'm miserable now. Oh, you've been in the house too long, she said, and I naturally fled. In my life, oh, why do I give valuable time to people who don't care if I die?
That was Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now by the band The Smiths. You are listening to the Apex Radio Hour here on KSUU Thunder 91.1. I'll turn it back to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Faith. We're here with Josh Singh, who's the art director for Marvel Entertainment, and we were talking about the process of video games and those kind of things. So what percentage would you say is the importance of playability versus story in one of these kind of large format video games?
That's a great question, because it depends on what you want. There's all different kinds of games, right? Some people want a game that only tells a story. I just push a button and I go to the next movie, and I solve a simple puzzle and I go to the next movie. Some people really want, like there used to be a company called Telltale Games, and they'd make stuff like that where it's just kind of like, you have a quick time event, story happens. And that was really the thing. And then you have other games, and the classic example is like something like Tetris, right? So I've worked at studios, and sometimes it's a debate. It's like, do games even need a story? Everyone says, what about Tetris? Tetris is a game. It doesn't need a story. What about tic-tac-toe? It's a game. It doesn't need a story. And I would say, it all depends. That's like the great creative. Any creative you ever ask a question, they're also going to say, it depends, right? And I think that a story is intrinsic to anything if you look for it hard enough. Some games will have the story like all up in your face, like Spider-Man 2. It's like Spider-Man has to go fight this thing and learn who he is and have a journey of self-discovery, and so does Miles, and so does everybody. And then everybody's better at the end. They defeated evil, they killed Venom, and whatever, and it's the end, right? And then other stories, it's like, hey, do you remember that time you did that thing? And I got really mad, and then like I won, and then I was, what I mean? That the story is it's in of the playing it, right? Mm-hmm. And so like I remember on League of Legends, it was like, hey, what's the story of League of Legends? When someone plays League of Legends, is there like a narrative? And they're like, well, no, like League of Legends is like basketball. It's like you get in there, you play a match, and you get out. And the story is more about like, the players are the story, and. And I guess that kind of makes sense, but you could see like, if you watch Netflix, there's a show called Arcane based on the League of Legends universe. Like they're really trying to build that IP into something that could be moved into other media other than just League of Legends, because like you can't tell a compelling fiction narrative in a game that's like basketball or something like that. I think a lot of great games come from great story ideas, but I don't think necessarily games need to have a narrative to find a story, so yeah, like I said, it depends on the I like working on games that have stories. I like working on games that like I'm playing as Spider-Man, I'm playing as a hero, as a heroic character, and I'm going through their journey, and someone's telling that journey to me as I move through it. Like that's the kind of game I really like. And then things that are discovered, and the gameplay's fun, and the powers are compelling, and I get to see this character arc and overcome challenges in the place of this character, versus, hey, let's get together and let's play Fortnite, and you're Banana Guy and I'm going to be, licensed character, number 500. And we're just going to go, pwn some noobs real quick. Like, I mean, that's a fun story, but for me, it's like, I just like sitting there with a good book, it's a solitary experience sometimes, and I prefer that.
So I would imagine in something as involved as, say, anything with like Marvel or some larger conglomerate of corporation type business thing, that there's some layers of approvability that must exist, right? So when you're doing a game like Spider-Man 2, there are certain things you cannot do or can do. I mean, is there like a Bible of what you can do with Spider-Man in a video game?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And the more popular the character is, the more specific the style guide, art Bible is. Brand guidelines is what we call them. So that is part of what I do at Marvel now, is make sure that anybody who licenses Marvel intellectual property for a video game, that they're within brand guidelines. But we also want people to have their own vision for these characters. Like we were talking about Midnight Suns, right? And so Midnight Suns was a game that came out by Firaxis, and they really wanted to. The Midnight Suns is a comic from the 90s, and it was spelled Suns like SONS, S, like the Midnight Suns. But they changed it to Midnight Suns, like, like a midnight sun, like in the sky. And they wanted to have characters that weren't in the original Midnight Suns in there, like Captain America, and create cool like Midnight Suns gold and black costumes for them and integrate them into the story. And we were totally cool with that. Like, as long as like Tony Stark is still acting like Tony Stark, as long as like Hulk is, still doing the things that Bruce Banner and Hulk, like their core themes, their core thematic is intact, we're usually fine with it. Every once in a while, we'll have someone like do the scallops wrong on Spider-Man's webbing or get the wrong pattern, wrong on Captain America's shield. Then we just correct them. And so those are the visual style guides, and those are very easy to fix because it's like, here, should be like this. And I do a little paint over. I find the more compelling ones and the more compelling conversations are when we're talking story and we're like, would Wolverine do this? Does Deadpool need to be jokey all the time? Can he be serious? And when he's serious, what does that look like? And, how do we make Tony Stark, a billionaire dude, feel sympathetic? It's kind of hard. He's like some billionaire tech bro. How do we make a game about that and make people like empathize with him? And so those are the much more, and while still staying on brand, right? And still, so those are the tougher conversations and the more rewarding ones because they usually lead to really great scripts, which then can really turn into really great games.
And then I would imagine, so we talk about world building, right? Like you have to, in my mind, that I'm not a huge video game player. I enjoy the story of them, but I would imagine that it's almost like a line at Disneyland, right? Where you walk up to the line and it looks shorter than it is, or it looks shorter, and then you turn a corner and there's more people, but they've always got something interactive to keep you staying in that line.
Yeah. Like talking about like staying with a game.
Yeah, like because at some point it's like, at what point do you say, well, this is just too hard, or I'm just going to stop and drop it? I mean,
yeah, that's just good game design. They call it. It's called the golden path. So whatever the main story is in a video game is the golden path. I mean, that's what we call it. I think other people might call it something different, but it's like, hey, this is how, Kratos, for like God of War, gets from point A to point B, the end of the story. That's the golden path. If you don't do any side missions, no collectibles, none of that, you just want to do straight the story, this is what's going to happen. And then from there, you do like maybe like a silver path. But these are the side missions, like, Witcher. I don't know if anyone's ever played The Witcher from CD Projekt Red in Poland, but The Witcher 3 has amazing side content that has nothing to do with the golden path, but every side quest has its own well thought out sort of conundrum that the Witcher Geralt has to help solve, which helps the world building. It's like, oh, there are people suffering and I can ease their suffering with my powers, or there are people that demand revenge and I can help. Or there's treasure to be found. And you begin this incredible world building exercise that doesn't really get you to the end of the game, kind of goes out, And I think that, when you do that right, you kind of like give a bunch of like doable missions up front so people like learn the controls, develop proficiency, and then you just give them their first challenge to test that proficiency until by the end of the game, hopefully they've developed some kind of mastery is the right thing. You don't really want to give people like the final boss at level 1, unless it's a gimmick, like sometimes I think Metroid does that a lot. Metroid will give you all of your powers, everything that you could ever earn right at the beginning of the game, and then put you up against somebody and make it so you lose. And then you like start at square one and you have to work your way back up. That's like that's how they tell their story. It's like you just got your butt kicked. So now you got to go find your gun, you got to go find your helmet, you got to go find your cool thing, and then at the end you're going to try again. But now you have wisdom because you know what he's going to do. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. You want to make the player feel smart and feel powerful, and I think that's what the best games do.
I think that's an interesting idea about how you think about how you want the person playing to feel and not get lost in this game. So in your experience with all the gamers that you know, are most people those people that will enjoy the side quests, or most people just say, hey, it's like students, right? I have students that say, I just want to know what's on the test. That is what I want. Or others who say, I want to fill that a little further out.
It's so weird. It's so weird because I'm absolutely one of those guys that'll like I'll play like Cyberpunk 2077 twice, and like go through all the different paths and like, there's a game called Baldur's Gate 3, and it's like a long form sort of game. You can make all these choices, and I love that stuff. And I'm like, and then I'll go talk with my friends. I'm like, did you try doing this? Did you get the owlbear into your camp? Did you try being evil in this one decision? Or what did you do? I want to know what their decision. That's the conversation. But I've noticed that like my kids and a lot of the younger generation, they just want to sit with their friends and just play Fortnite or just be in just chill. I'm talking like 20-year-olds, not kids. I'm talking like, young adults who've grown up with this stuff. It's like Minecraft. They just want to like hang out and just play Minecraft together and just talk about their day. And there's no, I guess you could say there's a story to Minecraft, but like Fortnite, yeah, there's a story to Fortnite, I guess. But it's really, I guess it's what you need. Like, do you need that dopamine hit right now? Do you just have some frustrations and you just need to
people up?
Just beat people up, and then they turn into a piñata and you take their stuff, like sometimes you need that. Sometimes you just need, like to go on an adventure, sometimes you just need to forget like your day and just like we used to do with movies. It's like, hey, I just want to watch Indiana Jones, like go on an adventure. And it's escapism. So it varies between like whatever you need between escapism or stress release or social connection. I was a big World of Warcraft player back in the day. And I'd get on just because all my friends were on, and we could talk to each other and chat. And honestly, League of Legends was that way too. When I worked at Riot, it was a great way to connect with coworkers and stuff like that. And I only wanted to get good at League of Legends so that I could impress my coworkers.
So the stereotype is that, will you quit playing video games or you're wasting your time playing video games? What is the redemptive idea behind video games that and I realize you can get lost in anything, and anything good can become problematic and all that other kind of stuff. But is there something that we can say is, this is a developer? Let me just rephrase it a little bit. When I was a kid, I was big D&D player, Dungeons and Dragons, early on. I mean, I'm a kid of the 70s. Yeah. And right about that time, there was this movement that it's of the devil.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, it was Satan worshiper.
Yeah, but now they've discovered that people who play role-playing games actually, there's math involved and it stimulates parts of the brain. I mean, is there a similar kind of idea with video games?
100%. I mean, I'm right there with you, man. Like, I don't even know. I think we're probably about the same age, but, I remember... dude, it was like comic books. Comic books are the devil, they rot your brain. And then it was like Dungeons and Dragons. I was in 6th grade, and I remember I got my hands on it was a magazine that like sort of highlighted all the cool figures you could get, like Castle something or other. I can't remember. But I was looking at it, I was like, oh, this dude's got like a chainsaw arm, and there's like Warhammer 40K, these Harlequins, like, these are all, and then there was like that thing in the 80s, like D&D is the devil. It's like, ugh. And I was like, huh? It sounds cool to me. Like this dragon on the cover looks awesome. And then video games, people still, I roll my eyes so hard every time some politicians like, well, video games, this kid went psycho because he played video games. It's like, we don't think it was because like, he had easy access to a gun. You know what I mean? It's like video games is a scapegoat because it's a new media. It's a new thing. It's a new thing that is largely embraced by the youth. And a lot of older folks, and I mean, we're not even older. Like the people older, like our parents, like we're like in our 40s. It's like I get video. If there's anybody who's 40 and you don't get video games, you're just a dork. You just didn't pay attention. You know what I mean? It's been around since you were a kid, and so like I get it if you're like 60 something or 70 something, you don't get it. But like if you're in your 40s and you don't get like why video games are cool, it's like you just haven't been paying attention. We've grown up with this media now. And there's 100% amazing things that could be done with the storytelling medium of video games. There's video games that heal. There's video games that, help you visualize, kindness and sharing. There are games that incentivize people to be good to one another. There are games that sort of increase social ties for people that may have anxiety or may people that don't have social anxiety, don't do well outside the home or outside their safe places. There's yes, it's not all doom. It's not all shotguns and blood and gore. Like, there's games like Animal Crossing. There are games like Undertale. There are games that emphasize, the best of us, and that are very wholesome. And so I largely think that's misunderstood, and I think that sometimes people like to use that as a scapegoat for their failings in other areas,
or the real problems.
Yeah, politicians, cough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you know, and particularly when it comes to Marvel, like one of the reasons I really do love working at Marvel, and it's always been a goal for mine, is because we have the ability to really like do mainstream things, like with something like Spider-Man, was one of the most well-known characters in the world, and tell really great stories about the what's Spider-Man's logo, with great power must also come great responsibility, right? And everybody knows that. And anybody who's really thought about that goes like, wow, the more powerful I get, the more responsible I have to get? Huh. So does that mean that as I get older and I get more responsibility, I'll have more power and I'll have more power? It just causes people to think, and it's a good thing. And we do that with all of the Marvel characters. And all the best Marvel characters, and all the best characters in fiction actually, have some kind of altruistic moral, in my opinion, that causes us to think about ourselves and think about what life is really about and how we should treat one another.
Yeah, so I think that's a great place to stop for our second break, and we'll come back in a minute and talk about people. So this song that you've chosen is called "Landed" by Ben Folds. Can you tell us why you chose this song?
So many. It's one of my favorite songs. So I used to commute from Draper to Pleasant Grove at the point of the mountain all the time in the beginning of my career, and I just played this nonstop. Also, it's, you know, my wife picks me up from the airport a lot, and so it's like, pick me up, I've landed. So, so I just got a lot of love for Ben Folds.
Okay, this is "Landed" by Ben Folds.
At the bottom, I thought it was my fault, and in a way I guess it was. I'm just now finding out what it was all about. We moved to the West Coast, away from everyone. She never told me that you called. I was still in love, until I opened my eyes and walked out the door, and the clouds came tumbling down, and it's bye-bye, goodbye, I tried, and I twisted it wrong just to make it right, had to leave myself behind, and I've been flying high all night, so come pick me up. I've landed. A daily promise she made from nothing. So nothing ever made them right. She liked to push me and talk me back down till I believed I was a crazy one. And in a way, I guess I was. But I opened my eyes and walked out the door, and the clouds came tumbling down. And it's bye-bye, goodbye, I tried. Treading the sea of a troubled mind, had to leave myself behind, singing bye-bye, goodbye, I tried. If you wrote me off, I'd understand it, 'cause I've been on some other planet, so come pick me up. I've landed. And you would be so happy to know I've come alone. It's over.
down, concentrate on the telephone's arm. It's okay to call, and I will answer for myself. Come pick me up. Come pick me up. I've landed.
That was Landed by Ben Folds. You are listening to the Apex Radio Hour here on KSUU Thunder 91.1. I'll turn it back to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Faith. So we've been talking about story and people and how you're this idea that even sometimes the simplest narrative can be a powerful one based upon what you need, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk more about people in general. You've mentioned in your previous presentations that your career has really been built on connections with other people, right? And sometimes those people can lead to great, as you said, corporate cultures and bad corporate cultures. And let's explore that a little more. What is your thought process about how you connect with people in that way?
So I'm a firm believer in like the law of attraction, right? Like what you put out is what you're going to get. And like how you present yourself, what you're into, you'll always find your people, and when you're in high school and you're really into drama, you find the other kids who like drama, you play sports, you find the kids, but sometimes, I'm a hybrid. Like I like everything. Like I was kind of like a jock and I was also kind of like a drama kid. And I was also like playing Magic the Gathering, you know what I mean? Like I've always been this way. And so I love having as many friends as possible from all different kinds of backgrounds, my geeky friends and my CEO friends, my lawyer friends, my doctor friends, and then my, game developer friends. So I like to get a view of all these things, and because I just want to have as many points of view as possible. And so, throughout my career in video games, I've come across, a lot of different types, people who are just in it for the money, and then people who are in it because they really believe in what they're doing. And, I have a good friend at Marvel, and he came up with this. I've always had this pulling. I have to give a shout out to him. His name's Haluk. He sort of penned. He called it, mercenaries and zealots. But I called it. I'm like, I'm gonna take that and call it mercenaries and believers, right? So what that basically means is, because I was talking to my buddy, and he's just like, yeah, no company that's full of mercenaries has ever made anything good. The only good stuff comes from companies full of believers. And I was like, that makes, from what so that basically means that, like, a company that's full of people that are just in it from the money are going to make something generic. They're going to make something that's designed by committee. They're going to make something that is just sort of bleh, just kind of beige, right? Whereas when something is made by believers, that's when you get something artistic. You get something that speaks to life, to what it's like to be alive from that person's point of view, and it'll resonate. But if you try to speak to everybody all the time, it's just going to be nothing. And so I've always, and I'm not trying. This is not an adversarial thing, because I think all of us are mercenaries and believers at the same time, given in any given situation. I like being, I've been a mercenary. I've done things for the money, but I like being at Marvel because I'm what did Stan Lee would call everybody true believers. Hey, true believers. And what that means to me is, like, you believe that you're doing something good, and you believe that, even video games, they don't rot your brain, but they can be a time sink, but hopefully there's a good message there. And I believe in that. I believe that in heroes and stuff. And I don't like making dark things. I've worked on dark games before where everything's evil and there's monsters and it's like and everybody's a shade of gray. I'm like, that's kind of cool, but it's not really my vibe. I like making things that are heroic and speak the best about people. And so yeah, going through it, finding your people, and I've met all kinds of people, and I've learned so much from them over the years. So yeah,
How then do you, in these obviously it's not just mercenary companies that go under, specifically in the video game industry, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you showed a slide in one of your presentations about, here, gone, renamed, acquired by somebody else.
Yeah, gobbled up.
So how do you say to the believers, you're fired?
I know. So this is the hardest thing, and it's something that I anybody that I talk to that wants to go into a creative profession, if you want to go into movies, if you want to go into comics, you want to go into video games, write a book of poetry, Nano, I don't know if you're listening to this, I'm mad at you. Anyway, if you want to write a book, you got to deal with publishing. You got to deal with money, the money people, and the money people don't want to take risks. The creative people, all it is risk. And so you have to find this sort of yin-yang spiritual medium where you can mitigate risk while still having your artistic voice heard. And that's really been like, that's the secret. And so, to your question, like there's been a lot of layoffs. There has been a lot of layoffs. Microsoft acquired Activision and Blizzard, and they laid people off from like Infinity Ward. From Blizzard got laid off. Bungie had some layoffs a while back. Riot had layoffs. Everyone, sort of like a trend right now. I think Facebook and Google kicked it off last year. They laid off, and then everybody's like, I guess we're doing layoffs. It's so crazy because also like 2023 was like a record profit year for the video game industry. It was like billions of dollars. Everybody was making tons of money, and then everyone got to get laid off. And so I think it's just cruel. It's just the cruel, but it's just business. It is business. And, if you're smart, you don't fire your believers. You don't. Because they're the ones who are your vision holders. They're your vision carriers. They're the ones who are going to keep the thing true. But I think it's a huge mistake, So what do I say to a believer that's been fired? It's they didn't deserve you. I say they didn't deserve you. They didn't see your value, and they made a huge mistake, and now their game is going to be poorer for it. And I hope that they find someone, that's creating something that they can resonate with, and bring their enthusiasm and their and find something else to believe in. And the safest position to be in is as a believer is as an owner, and that's why it's important to know a little bit about a business, a little bit about like stock options, a little bit about how to form a game company or at least get stake ownership, like all these kinds of things. Even if it's small, the safest place for a believer is in ownership, and the safest place. And if you don't have any ownership, well, then you kind of have to be a mercenary. Otherwise, you're just kind of putting yourself out there to be heartbroken. So, so it's kind of like, I'll take whatever money you can get. I'll take you to the cleaners because you're not giving me any of your company. And I have a good friend of mine, and we were at Blizzard one day, and we were just kind of like, they were doing stocks, they were doing bonuses one year, and our bonuses were so crap because we were new to the company or whatever. And we saw these other guys getting huge bonuses, and my buddy came up with this saying. He says I came up with it, but it's called "Steal the throne or build your own." He's like, "You got to steal the throne or build your own, Josh." I was like, "Dude, that's really good, Paul." And so it's kind of like, by steal the throne, it means like, work at a place long enough to inherit, to move up the ranks and be the guy. If you want to do that, put 20-something years, and you have faith that you can do that, or just go build your own, But as creative people, so many times we're just pouring our heart into something that's just making someone else rich. And if you can find a place that'll give that back to you so that you can be financially stable and not live in a state of like fear, well, then you can focus on being more creative. You can focus on telling better stories. And, you know what I mean? So, when it comes to people, you really want to find people that you can trust, and you want to find your people, and you want to find people that you can be real with. And my favorite managers were people that I could talk about money with, like the realities of life. And then those were the people that I gave my heart to, that I did my best work for, because they weren't trying to like skirt over that I need food to eat. Like they realized it, Mm-hmm. And those are the people that I really just, to this day, I still cherish.
So what do you say to the person who is trying to find or being asked to lose their artistic voice, their creative voice?
I would say, this is such a mercenary answer. I would say, make them pay you for it. If you have to silence yourself, at least get paid. And that's been a thing. It's like, hey, I really, and the thing is also, if you are in an ownership position, meaning you are lead narrative, you are lead designer, you're a creative director, and then like the CEO is telling you to not do that thing, that's just a bad CEO, right? That's just bad. You have to support your leads in their creative vision, you know. Sometimes though, you get like associate artists, or you get kind of, you know, folks that are lower on the totem pole who really have a strong voice that they want, and it's just not their time. It's just not their time to have that. Like, there are other people that came before them that are just as passionate and have been waiting their turn. And that's what happens at big studios, you know, at really big places where people have worked for decades to get their shot at the mic, you know, to do a thing. You know, like I think if you go back to Disney, you know, some of these guys, or even Pixar, you know, some of these guys worked at Pixar from early on in the day, had to work there for like 10, 20 years before they got their shot at directing a film, you know. And so you can't just walk in the door and be like, I'm here. Here's my art. You got to, if you're working in a large organization, you kind of have to wait your turn, or start building it on your own, you know, and see if that gains any traction. Because a lot of times just getting it out is enough. Because the marketability, because if you want to pitch it to your company, it has to have that whole marketability aspect of the thing. It's not like, hey, I got this game about my personal life. It's like, nobody cares, man. Like, you know, just go get it out. And so, you know, that's honestly what I'd say. But it's like, hey, I'm making something and I really want to do this, but the publisher won't, you know, I really want to make a game about divorce. Okay, cool. Right. But it's going to be really, really cool. Well, can you like, you know, not do that? Like, can you not make divorce? Can you make like it, can you like make it like an allegory, you know, like maybe the guy like falls in love or something, and then, you know, it's magic. Make it more of an adventure, and not like a straight up like, hey, you fell in love and you got divorced, because like we can't sell a game about your divorce, bro. You know what I mean? So it's like I would ask them to please like take your artistic vision and try to like make it malleable to like something that we can understand, that's not so esoteric to yourself. And then if you do it right, and if you tell the story right, and you use the right metaphors and the right allegory, people will get it. People will understand what you're trying to say. You know, the Force. Everybody knows what the Force is. Everybody, you know, before midichlorians, we all.
How dare you? We're not allowed to use that word on the radio.
Yeah, before the M word, people were like, dude, the Force is like a spiritual thing, man. It's like something that I feel, you know. And then he killed it with midichlorians. But people, you know, when you use the right metaphors that we all experience throughout life, people will get it. If you know, people will understand. That's why horror movies are so great. You know, people are like, oh, I get the allegory there. You know, like something like Hereditary. You know, like I don't know if anybody's seen that one, but it's about breakup. It's about splitting up. It's just about that's really all it's about. But then you insert all this crazy stuff into it. So, you know, not Hereditary. That was Midsummer. Hereditary is about family and family expectations. And legacy and the sort of baggage you get from your parents and the baggage they got from their parents. That's what it's about. But it's in the spooky wrapper of, you know, spooky stuff. And so you can, you know, I think it just takes some massaging, and I think any story can be made good with enough skill. So that's what I would tell somebody. It's like, don't have to kill it. Let's just make it better.
And if you do it right, they'll know it came from you.
Yeah.
Right? If you build your own style. Even
Build
if it's Spider-Man, you know, we know Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man. There's the Insomniac Spider-Man. It's like theirs. We told them to do that white spider. We want it to be the Insomniac Spider-Man. It's that white spider. It's unique to them. And so, yeah, and then Todd McFarlane, you know, everybody has their own style, but the theme is always the same. He's always Spider-Man. No matter who holds the pen or is writing it, it always has to have that same thematic. So, you know, as long as you stick to those ideals, I think you can still make something commercially viable while still telling a story that's deeply personal to whoever's creating it. It just takes skill and patience.
Super cool. Well, let's take our final break. This is a song that you gave us called "The Greatest Man That Ever Lived" by Weezer. Can you give us a thought on this?
I mean, this is just a song about, like, me. No, I'm just joking. I've been running a lot and working out and stuff, and I just like this song in the gym, and I'm just like, dude, heck yeah, like, I'm kicking butt. It's just a fun song, and it's got lots of different movements. It starts out all, like, piano-y, and then it gets rock. Anyway, I like it.
The Greatest Man That Ever Lived by Weezer.
try to play cool like you just don't care, but soon I'll be playing in your underwear. I'm like a mage with a magic spell. You come like a dog when I ring your bell. I got the money and I got the fame. You got the hots to ride on my plane. You're giving me all that I desire, 'cause down with me I'm taking you high. I'm the baddest of the bad. I'm the best that you've ever had. I'm the tops, I'm the thing. All the girls get up when I sing, yeah. I'm the meanest in the place. Step up, I'll mess with your face. I don't care where you are. Look up and follow the star. I'm gonna tear down the wall. I may not be here when you call, so best be giving me your all. Ooh. After the havoc that I'm gonna read, no more words will critics have to speak. I've got the answers to the tangled knot. Sleep tight in your car. Oh, baby, I've been told that I'm going crazy. Oh, baby, but I can't be held down. Oh, baby, somehow I'm keeping it steady. Oh, baby, I'm tearing up this town. Hey, this is what I like. Cut my heart with some modest spite. Hey, this is nothing new. I've got more than enough for you. I can take on anybody. I can do my thing. I don't wanna hurt nobody, but a bee has got to sting. I'ma fix it if you mix it up. Ooh, ooh. Talk smack, then I'm gonna shut you up. Ooh, ooh. I am the greatest man that ever lived. I was born to give. I am the greatest man that ever lived.
Somebody said all the world's a stage, and each of us is a player. That's what I've been trying to tell you. In Act 1, I was struggling to survive. Nobody wanted my action dead or alive. Act 2, I hit the big time, and bodies be all up on my behind. And I can't help myself, 'cause I was born to shine. If you don't like it, you can shove it. If you don't like it, you love it. So I'll be up here in a rage till they bring the curtain down on the stage.
That was The Greatest Man That Ever Lived by the band Weezer. You are listening to the Apex Radio Hour here on KSUU, Thunder 91.1. I'll turn it back to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Faith. We're excited for the last segment. We're here with Josh Singh, the art director of Marvel Entertainment, and more importantly, his wife Autumn Singh has joined us here for this last segment. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Josh Singh, what are you currently watching, reading, listening to, or playing that is bringing you joy?
I'm currently reading a book called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. It was recommended to me by a friend, and it's a great book about just like the philosophy of creating a creative environment for yourself, or making an environment where you can be creative in, and like, you know, it's very vibes. It's like what kind of vibes, like, you know, attract the muse or whatever. But I'm really enjoying it right now, and especially as an art director or any sort of creative leader, you do need to learn how to keep things chill, because nothing good can come when people are scared. Like, people can't take risks, and they can't be as creative as possible if they're in a scary environment, or they feel like they're in an unsafe environment. So that's what's giving me joy right now, aside from running and trying to get in shape and get my blood pressure down. So.
And your family.
And my family always.
Rick Rubin is the bearded genius. I mean, Rick Rubin is the most brilliant record producer. I mean, he's like the Phil Spector kind of that level of.
Yeah, he's old school.
Reinvigorated Johnny Cash. I mean, he's just amazing.
Yeah.
So, all right. Autumn Singh, what are you currently watching, reading, listening to, or playing that is bringing you joy?
Wow. Okay. So right now I am reading How to Sell in a Crisis, which I really love because I'm in real estate. So this last year has been super interesting, and it's, you know, for most real estate agents, it's a little bit to your gut. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? And I'm a relatively new agent. And so it's been a really trying year, but I love this book because it's just showing you really just how to put your head down and do the basic things. Sometimes we overcomplicate it by thinking all these things we have to do, but it's really bringing things back down to the basics, connecting with people, having conversations, putting yourself out there so people know that you're a real estate agent, but you're not just, you know, just here to hang out and sell. It's to really connect with people and genuinely help people. So like I said, it's just bringing things back to the basics, connecting with people, and finding ways that kind of just brings everybody closer together.
Cool. Thank you. Faith Christensen, what are you currently watching, reading, listening to, or playing that is bringing you joy?
Easy cop out, but last week was my birthday, and it was a different birthday compared to others, as I didn't need to go to a building for school, even though I am still in school, just online, and I had work off, so it was different, as I got to stay home and do what I wanted for my birthday. And I found that really conflicting, as usually you have people around you to say, oh, happy birthday, oh, I forgot, or something like that. But my husband was so caring and loving and just empathetic with that day, as listening as, you know, sometimes birthdays are hard and sometimes they're different. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure you have a good birthday. So my husband's great, and I love him very much, and he brings me a lot of joy.
Aww.
Yeah, but for you, Ryan, what are you currently watching, reading, listening to, or playing that is bringing you joy?
I just finished Fargo Season 4. So I realize Season 5 is out, but Fargo Season 4. Fargo was one of the most brilliantly written television shows on TV. Fargo Season 4 is set in 1950s Kansas City with Chris Rock and the mobsters and stuff. So I think it was... if you want to see true story in action, Noah Hawley and the seasons of Fargo is amazing.
I'll watch it. How's it compared to like something like True Detective Season 1?
It is much more twisted and convoluted a fun storytelling.
Okay, yeah, not as dark.
Right, not it is dark, but not as dark. And you don't have to start with Fargo Season 1. You can start. They're all connected. They're not connected in different stories in many ways.
I love well-written characters and great character interactions, and yeah.
Fargo Season 4. Lots of characters, and they're all connected. So with that, we want to thank Josh Singh for being here on the Eccles Apex Radio Hour, and we're going to end with this song, Here Comes Your Man by the Pixies. Anything you want to say?
I mean, this is just one of my favorite songs. It reminds me of my wife because she really likes it, and like I'm I don't
good
know.
one.
It's a good one. It's just a good one.
Okay. Here Comes Your Man by the Pixies. Thanks for listening to the Apex Radio Hour.